Ladies, gents, and everyone under the sun, welcome back to another episode of the Container Podcast, episode 26. Happy New Year, everybody, and I want to introduce you to your regulars, not so regular, my co-hosts. Kyle, what's up?
Yo, how we doing?
Doing
Been
good.
a while.
Too long, yeah. What about you, Jacky? What's up?
Yo, I'm doing fine. I'm doing actually more than fine. I'm doing very well. I'm very happy to be back. It's been way too long, like you just said. So I'm very happy to be back with you guys.
That's what I like to hear. It's been how long? Maybe 5 months between
I would say-
episode
I wouldn't say
25.
5 months. 5 months is maybe a bit too long, but at least more than 3 months, yeah.
Probably like 4 or something like that there.
Yeah.
Because I'm renowned in my channel to have those hiatuses that last for like 7 months. People really love to egg me on that. So at least it wasn't that long. We're back, guys, and we're back with a review of the manga Uzumaki written by Junji Ito. It's a homework that I gave to you guys, and I gave it, like we said, a while back. So, have you forgotten about your read? How is it, guys?
I read it pretty close to when you proposed it there. Like it took me actually, because I didn't know when. I didn't want it to be like completely lost on me, so I took my time with it. But like I said, it probably took me a month to read it, and now it's been at least 3 months since that reading. So
No
but
refresher?
no, but I think I still have a pretty good memory of it though.
Yeah, okay. What about you, Jacky?
Well, a bit like Kyle. I mean, when you suggested it, I started reading it, but really slowly because I wanted to, end the reading close to the podcast. And what happened is that we kept postponing it, so I've just waited and waited, and I've actually finished it a couple of days back. So it's pretty
Whoa.
fresh in my memory. The end of the manga.
Well, that's
Not so much the
very-
beginning, but yeah, the end is pretty fresh.
I did the same thing as Kyle, so I read it close to when I gave you the homework, but then I took a long break, forgot most of it, and reread it just like I prepare for my homeworks and assignments. So I finished right about 2 hours ago.
God. Well, for you, it's like at least the second time or the third time that you've read it, because when you gave us the homework, you had not read it, right?
Yeah, I didn't. I was discovering this manga of Junji Ito because I already
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought
okay.
you had read it.
Yeah,
I
same thing.
I actually read other works of this guy, but every time that I look up his name, this is the manga that people associate the most with him. So I didn't want to give you one I already read, but the most popular.
I see. Okay, all right. So kind of get an introduction to his work, right?
Exactly. I think it's very representative to the kind of author he is. I know that it's been running from 1998 to 1999. It had a movie adaptation, a live action film in 2000, and it's supposed to have an anime adaptation in 2022.
Yeah. So this fall, as I saw on YouTube, there's a couple of trailers for the anime that's going to come out this year. So I'm really excited to see that. It looks from the trailer, what you can see is that they stay really close to what was drawn in the manga. So I think that will be interesting. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what they're going to offer us.
It should be amazing from the trailers because the animation style has somehow managed to capture the drawing of Junji Ito. And to be honest, it's a very special type of art style. We might talk about it more later, but if you guys have something that you want to say now, you can. You have the floor.
I mean, it's very well drawn, from the start till the end. You can really appreciate the shadows, the intensity of the faces, and of the the horrific imagery that is often seen in that manga. So it's yeah. This is what I have to say for now.
Kyle, anything?
I think we're gonna keep. Right now I don't have anything to say. When we'll get into it, we'll talk about it.
Good. I think we'll go by a chapter basis. So chapter 1 was called The Spiral Obsession Part 1. It was a 2-part story, mini story. So yeah, if you guys remember chapter 1, it was very iconic. We had Kyrie, the girl, and Shuichi, the boy. They are in a relationship, both of them. And Shuichi, the boy, starts really not feeling well. He is uneasy and he really wants to get out of his hometown. And yeah, maybe I'll leave it at this. What did you guys think of the introduction? The mood in the town, the two characters briefly introduced, and we move.
Well, when I went into it, I had no idea what I was like. I had no knowledge of it at all, at all, at all. So I didn't know if it was gonna be a romantic manga or adventure. I had no idea, right? So in the beginning, the first couple episodes, chapters, let's say, they intrigued me. I was just like, okay, where's this going? What's going on? So I wasn't completely sold on it there. I was just, but it was. They did give me enough, I think, from what I remember, to keep me interested.
Yeah, man, I have to say, if you guys don't remember the details, since it's kind of fresh in my mind, but it started really fast where we see the Shuichi's dad being obsessed by a snail on a wall in between like an alley, and he's looking at it, squatting intensely, and they're passing by him. I think it's Kyrie herself. She passed by him and she was kind of perplexed by the dad of her boyfriend, right? What he was doing. But she moved on and they talked about it. He's like, there's nothing to laugh at. He's been actually very obsessed and troubled by spiral patterns lately. And she doesn't really understand the extent of it. And then we see that he actually amassed a collection and built a separate place, like how do you say, a room dedicated to spirals. And he has tons and tons of different artifacts ranging from, I don't know, pots to chandeliers to different like drawings to different maybe like anything you could think of that could be spiral shaped, like clothes. And he was like obsessed. It's like he dedicated a shrine to it or something. And we saw that it was actually very obsessive in the way it was drawn and how he spoke.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, he's not really there, but I think what's interesting also about the beginning is that you see this behavior from the dad, how he's obsessed with spirals, but there are also signs in the whole village of there's something going on.
Yeah, we
From the
see.
beginning, you understand that there's something going on in the village. It's not only the father. It's it's a shape of spirals in the water. It's clouds. It's the sea. It's the lights. It's
The
the
wind.
snails and everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
the wind exactly. Yeah. So many things going on in that village at the start.
Not only that, I want to add the sirens. The sirens produce a sound, just like, you know, the nuclear sound where everybody has to evacuate.
Yes.
I don't want to imitate it, but I think I have to.
Woo!
Yeah, exactly like this. So
Very
it
loud.
goes up and down, and that inflection in the sound is kind of spiral-like. You could see it also in a like waveform, like a sine function, or you know, but
Yeah.
it's actually supposed to be referencing a spiral too by the sound. So we were gonna move on, right? So that's the setting, the initial setting, and yeah, Shuishi's dad is actually going to commission Kirie's dad, who is an artist, someone that does pottery, and he's gonna ask him to make him a custom spiral-shaped plate. I believe, was it a plate or a pot? I don't really remember.
Oh, it was something, but you know, at that point, he's just asking for spirals from the friend, you know, for pot. He's asking to his wife to cook in a spiral shape, the noodles or whatever.
Yes.
Everything. You can see that he's very troubled by it, and
Oh yeah,
you know,
when
it
he
keeps on
goes
going.
to take his bath, remember?
Yeah, well, that's the beginning of the end, because at first, you know, he starts to rotate the water in a spiral shape,
And then he
and
sits in the center of the spiral and like takes
yes,
it in. He's like, "Oh, I feel part of the spiral."
yeah, and
And yeah,
yeah,
man, feeling part of the spiral was absolutely about to get 100% more real because his wife was scared. She was very scared for her husband, and she decided that while he was out, maybe at work, if I remember well, she would pick up everything that was in that room and actually throw it in the trash. So he lost all of his objects and collection. And when he came back, he was actually getting violent, and his son had to separate them and put an end to that. And then he said, "You know what? I don't need the artifacts, right?" My God, do you remember, Kyle, what was about to happen? What he ordered?
No, I don't. You have to remind me.
So essentially, he ordered a big ass, like how can we say, maybe barrel, something like that. What would you say, Jackie? What?
yeah, it's like a wooden barrel, but it's not, you know, it's shaped like a cylinder, but it's
It's
very
kind of
close to the
flat.
ground.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of flat, exactly. And you know,
And you can
that's
close it, right? You have a lid.
yes, yeah, and that's basically how he dies or commits suicide or whatever you want to call it. But it's very um, horrifying imagery when they lift up the lid and you can see his dad that is
I
all
remember
torn
now.
up
I
in a
remember now.
spiral. Yeah, you
Yeah.
remember
That
that? Yeah.
Yeah,
the
man.
nasty. Well, I think that was the first when I was reading it. Yeah, I remember now. Where I just went like, "What the fuck? What the fuck am I reading? What is the suggestion?" You know, I was like a bit like creeped out. You know, and it did a good job to creep you out a bit. You know, the way because
Oh, it
you're not
was.
expecting that. You know,
They
you're
were
not
like,
expecting.
"That is missing, right? Where could he be?" And then they're like, "Yo, please don't let my intuition be true." And they lift that lid, and they see their dear one completely contorted in a spiral shape in that tub. It's like a tub or a barrel, you know. And yeah, and then they're from the tradition that they cremate dead people. And yeah, you were like, people are dressed in black. They are trying to mourn their loved one. but it's actually not a normal cremation or mourning, because the moment the smoke of the cremation rises up into the air, something goes wrong. Do you guys remember what happened?
The smoke turns into a spiral, no?
Exactly. First it starts spiraling, and then the mother, the wife, starts to
Yeah, freak
scream
out.
and freak out, and she's like, it's calling to me first, and it's your dad. And then they look up and try to see. It actually takes the exact shape of his body when he died, contorted completely. And yeah, man, it was completely insane. They could see a visual spectacle in the sky. Nobody is hallucinating. And that's how the two-part chapters end, I believe. Actually, no. It makes the mother completely insane, right? She's completely paranoid, and she has to be put in a hospital. And this is one of the chapters that resounded the most with me, because essentially she wants to erase every spiral from her life. Every time she sees one, she sees her husband, and she hears him calling to her to join her in the spiral. It's actually very trippy, but yeah, man, she tries to cut off her fingerprints, because if you look down on your hands, the fingerprints have some kind of spiral-like shape, and she cuts her hair completely, because when she sees her hair twirling, it makes her think of a spiral. And yeah, everything that's spiral-like, you gotta completely remove it from her vision. But there is something that keeps getting into her mind, that there is a spiral inside her that is calling, like it's calling her, and it's really making her uneasy and crazy. And that's actually the how do they call it? It's after the it's in the deep part of your ears.
Yeah, it's called the cochlea. I have it here because on one of the drawings you can see it, like they have all the parts of the inside the ear.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's called cochlea. I don't know if I pronounce it right, but
maybe
yeah,
it's
that's
with
the
a
name.
ch sound, like sh, koshlia or something like that.
Cochlea, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe, I have no idea, but that part of the body essentially is spiral-like, and it's uh, it's something that is gonna push her to hallucinate that it's trying to invade her body from the ears, and then she's like, I'm going to like block that pathway. I'm gonna erase
It's
that
cochlear.
cochlear. Thank you. And essentially she picks up a pair of scissors and she jams it into her both of her ears, and it was drawn in a way that made me, I don't know how many chills, how long it lasted. I was like, I am not about to read the next panel. I was so uncomfortable. I don't know for you guys.
Yeah, that's one thing I find that it you see, the more I got into it, the more like, it's gonna be like maybe like a horror-y. And the thing is, I find like drawings are, they don't scare me, but what it did a good job with was it freaked you out, where it was just like disturbing imagery, right? And I think it goes through the whole every single chapter. Every single chapter, you're like, okay, I've seen some weird shit, and then you read the next chapter and the next one and the next one, and it's every time you're like, what the fuck, this guy, like, I'm my bad, but the guy who wrote it, it's either he was on drugs or he has a fucked up mind, because the way he like thinks of these things, of like how people are like they do so nasty shit, like exactly
Yeah.
cut their fingerprints or put it in your ears and everything like that. That was very well done, in my opinion.
How did you
Yeah,
feel, Jackie? Yeah.
well, I think I can agree with that. It's difficult to be scared, um, with a manga or with a book even, or in general, everything that is related to drawings. It's really hard because I feel like horror comes from tension somehow, and it's difficult to have that in a book because there's no music, and you kind of control the pace at which you're seeing the images, and you get a glimpse of what you're going to see before you actually see it. So yeah, I think we'll come back to that later in terms of the whole horror genre in mangas, but it definitely is disturbing. But it's never scary. It's never thrilling. It's always, like Kyle
Nasty.
said, it's like nasty. And you're like, what the fuck am I watching? What the fuck is this? This is really disturbing.
Oh,
And
I'm gonna go there. I was scared to turn the next page. I was like, I do not want to see what's waiting for me on the next page because I was so disgusted by the text bubbles that were informing me of the thought process and the next actions that will for sure follow, because your mind goes wild while you read this and you see those images. And he showed me this and that. I do not want to see what's next. I know that page, I took a good long breath, I took a pause, I calmed down, and then I turned the page because I was not about to like go back to back on that. I felt too uncomfortable.
well, I don't know. That's special because to me, there's nothing stopping me really. There's not a moment when I thought, well, now I need a pause. I need to stop. I need to you know to absorb what I've just read, what I've just seen, so that I can continue. Because it's it's all images. It's all, and it's still images. They're not moving or anything. Um there's nothing really there's nothing really scary about it. I don't know how you can feel that, or you can
You
feel that
know, it's
you have
the
to wait before
empathy,
going
right?
further.
It's the empathy. You're like, yo, I know what it is to put something in my ear, and I can imagine what it would be to put something in that very sensitive place, as sharp as a scissor, and actually put force on it, try to stab myself. I was like, yo, I saw that movement, I saw the whole distress in her, and I was like, yo, she is going to do a mess, and I do not want to be a part of it. I don't want to see it. I was very disturbed. I couldn't. But for you, maybe, like you said, it's only text bubbles, it's only images, and you don't really put much,
I think
like,
what we agree that it's disturbing, right? It's
yeah,
like you
yeah,
look at that and you're like freaked out, right? For example, I'm thinking of what's it called there, the Berserk, right?
yeah.
It's where you're just like you look at some of the stuff that happens. Example, the eclipse, and you're just like, what the fuck? You're disturbed by what's happening, what you're reading, but you're never scared. You're never like, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I will make a difference. As much as I love the eclipse, I will say that I found it less cringy and less dreadful than this part of Uzumaki, because I felt more like you guys reading Berserk, like when the feeling you guys are talking about while reading Berserk than Uzumaki. Junji Ito has a way to really get you thinking and get you in that weird mind space where you start feeling shit on your real body. You're like, oh my god, what is this?
Does your heartbeat speeds up? Like, do you feel like do you feel stressed? Do you feel I mean, uneasy is too is too easy to say.
You know,
It's
your
like,
gut starts moving in a way, like it's kind of, oh
yeah,
my
but does
god.
your heartbeat starts to does it start to speed up? Do you feel do you feel anxiety? Do you feel like
My
you
heartbeat doesn't speed up, I don't think so, but
Mhm.
I do feel anxiety though.
Think about, our
Okay.
first ever homework that we've had was Hereditary.
Yes.
For me, when I was watching that, I had the feeling where I had to almost close my eyes because I was just, the music and everything just, I think that books and like what Jackie just said, books and mangas are, they I have a hard time being scared of what I'm reading.
Yeah,
right? Because I'm controlling the pace. I'm controlling how fast I'm reading this, what I'm looking at, right? Well, a movie or video game, for example, they dictate the pace that you're going at it. They set the mood and everything at it, and makes it that you're, I don't know. I find when I'm reading
you
or
could
something, I'm
always
like,
unplug it from the power outlet, right?
No, that's
yeah,
not the same.
exactly.
That's
But you're right. But you're right? But a movie fools me that I can't,
yeah,
right? But a book, since it's me doing the action of consuming it and not just me sitting there and it happening to me, makes it that I don't get the scary. But like I said, I'm repeating myself, but what I found was great about the manga was because I've never experienced a piece of whatever you want to call art or whatever that makes me truly disgusted about what I'm looking at. You know what I mean? But in a good way, right? Like in the beginning, the first chapter made me go like, ooh, I don't think I'm gonna like this, right? It in my mind is just gonna be like just weird for the sake of it being weird. But I think they made it work, So that's my overall impression. I just spoiled it, where I don't think it's a masterpiece, but the author, that what he wanted to do, he did it well.
Yeah.
And he made me read through all of it, and having this like freak, like, oh, that's what the fuck, like, that's disgusting, right? And he nailed that.
To me, we'll talk more about it when we get there, but I think it's misunderstood to a certain point, like what it's trying to tell. People mostly see it as a how can I say, a scenario with pictures that is made to disgust and to trigger you, essentially, to scare you. But I don't think it's just that. I think it's a little bit more deep. Actually, a lot more deep. So we'll get there, but essentially she dies. The poor soul, the poor mother. After that accident, she gets even crazier and she loses a lot of her bodily functions until she dies. And same thing, cremated her, goes into the sky, and then we see what's gonna happen next. That the smoke, the ashes, goes back to the pond, which is like a small sea or lake. It might be a sea, to be honest. I don't know. They call it a pond, but it looks like a sea to me.
it's like in the middle of the village is like this small body of water that's surrounded by the whole village, and I think, well, is it connected to the sea? I don't remember.
Oh, that's right. They have the dragonfly pond, but they also have the sea, because there is a chapter with the lighthouse.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, my bad, guys. I just misremembered. But essentially, it's a pond where the ashes fall into, and they're like, you know what? we are kind of done cremating people. Let's try and bury them instead. And then a couple of chapter passes until they follow up on that. How can we say that thread, that plot thread? Because the chapter 3, the scar, involves a little girl, actually same age as Kyrie, that has a special power. From the moment she had an accident that scarred her forehead, every boy that she met was completely obsessed by her. So she developed another power, which is giving the cold shoulder and breaking boys' hearts. And yeah, they were like, it's kind of mystical, to be honest, how easy she manages to get boys. And she befriends Kyrie, and Kyrie presents her to her own boyfriend, Shuichi. And yeah, the plot starts to thickens from then. Because when they meet, Shuichi is repulsed by the girl. She's actually scared, and she wants her to go away. And that rejection affected her very deeply. She couldn't understand how her whole life has been put like upside down. And so she becomes obsessed herself by Shuichi, and she wants to understand why he rejected her and all. She goes back, asks that exact question, and he says that she has a spiral on her forehead, and essentially she thought that it was a crescent moon shape, but it changed into a spiral, like the ends of the crescent moon like twirled around themselves to become a spiral. And yeah, she was confused by it, but she was more affected by the rejection, and she wanted him and him alone. That became her goal. What did you guys think of that chapter?
I mean, that chapter was I don't know if I can say like the least interesting to me, but it's not the one. It's not one of the ones that I liked the most. Definitely, like if I had to put a tier list of the chapters, it would be in the lower tiers.
I agree with you. It's not one of my favorites too. What about you, Kyle? If you're not busy, of course.
Yeah, I think he's a bit busy, so we can get back to him.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah, the reasons why you didn't particularly get too involved with that storyline.
I don't know. It was there's I felt it was a bit too on the side. I felt it was not as important as the main story. I know it was only like the third chapter, but I was sensing that it was not that important to the plot. I was already getting into the spiral, but mainly focused on Kirie and on Shuchi,
Shuichi.
Suichi,
Shuichi.
the guy.
Yeah.
God damn his name. Um, you know, I just felt that it was not as interesting as what I had seen, and now that I've read the complete work, it's still not one of my favorites. I mean, it it's not as interesting as the Reds. It's too focused on that one character that it's not that important. Of course, like you start to understand what's going on. Like it's people in this village, they're affected by the spiral effect or whatever this is,
Yeah.
and slowly it starts to grab people and it starts to possess people in whatever definition you have of possess. It's different for everyone, but you see that she's the victim of what's going on in the village, but the way her story is told and how she impacts the story was not that interesting to me.
Yeah. To me, the most crucial part of that, the reason why I didn't like it, was the initial motivation. I really didn't like that theme because in the end it's a theme about jealousy, and what jealousy pushed to the extreme does, and it consumed. Actually, it consumed somebody. If you guys remember,
Yeah, I remember like the spiral just like eats her up, and in the end, there's nothing left of her.
exactly. Not only her, but a poor dude actually was used as a decoy to bring Shuichi to the park, right? Because she really wanted to meet her, but he would not accept under any circumstance. So she sent another boy to call him, and then they could meet. And yeah, Shuichi was so scared that he actually went on a tree, on top of a tree. He was trying to escape that crazy girl. But yeah, she absorbed out of existence that poor dude, and then it became so powerful that it consumed her, like Jacky said. So that was the moral of the story. Actually, there is no moral that I said, but take of it what you will, right? I think it's mostly about jealousy.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think that's maybe one of the biggest problem. Maybe nothing to tell per se.
Actually, I will revise what I said because I can see an upcoming chapter that is actually about jealousy. This one might be about not getting what you want and not accepting it. Like in life, will be moments where, as hard as you try, it's not gonna happen, but you have to accept and move on. And she didn't.
Is it really that? Is it really that? That's because in this context, it's there's nothing relatable to to that. You know, it's too fantastic. It's too not say fantastic. It's too much fantasy. It's too much unrealistic. So you cannot compare it to real life to say that this is what they're trying to tell with that chapter.
To me, every chapter is too too fantastical, too much in fantasy, right? And it's done in a way where it facilitates the imagery. Like you said, she was consumed by it, and it came from her, from inside her. It's a lot of powerful things that to me can be tied to those different ideas, and that's how I see it. But I would say that you can see it in another way. I would need someone to explain what they understand from it.
Well, maybe I've got it wrong, but whether she wants it or not, whether she gets it, or not, she's getting consumed by the spiral effect. There's nothing, there's no stopping it. Whatever she does, whether she gets what she wants or not, it's irrelevant. So that's why I'm saying
Okay,
I
okay.
don't get how, this is there's no
You,
choice being made. There's
I
no
see. You're like it can't be that because it's not her fault. She's not the main actor in that consequence.
yeah. If the spiral was um you know feeding off our will to be liked by the boyfriend character, I don't.
Shuichi.
Shuichi.
Shuichi, yeah.
There we go. All right. So if um, the spiral effect was getting stronger and feeding off this will or emotions or whatever, maybe there would be something to tell. But it's a side quest. It's not the main
I
quest.
do understand that, but from what I read afterwards, right? Sometimes it does fall from the sky on you and you asked for nothing and you are a victim. But some other times you can see that it takes form and grows because of the flaws of a character.
Yes, but in that case, even in that case, I think it diminishes the impact and the power of the moral and of the storytelling, because um to me, like an interesting story shouldn't be about people being victims of something that they have no control over, and we just see how because of that they just fall down and they die, or they turn out to be sick, or they're pushed to exile or whatever. We don't like I don't think this is good storytelling. I think it's what's interesting is when this happens and then you see people reacting to that and trying to find solutions and making decisions to change the situation they're in. At the end, they can lose or not, but if it's just people, being the victims of something like that, even though it's something from, it's unrealistic and it's something of magical kind. Um, there should be a part where people, have a little bit of power, a little bit of decision making, a little bit of, it's the people that are making the choices. It's the people that are acting, and this situation is only putting out what the flaws, or it's only putting out the flaws that are already there.
Yeah, okay, I can see it.
You see what I mean? It's a bit complicated
No,
for only for that chapter, but you get it. You get the
yeah,
big picture.
I think we kind of get the big picture. Yeah, you like stories where the characters have agency, and you didn't feel like it was the case in that chapter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we can say it like that.
And yeah, as for myself, I thought that she could have like done something about it by accepting that she was not going to make Shuichi her boyfriend, right? It was a feeling that I got from the work that was presented to me. But I can understand if you guys didn't get that feeling.
Yeah, I guess um, maybe with the next chapters, we'll get to the stories where I feel this repeats,
Yes.
where I don't find it as interesting because of the same reason. So I think yeah, I think we should continue so that we can speak more about it with further chapters.
Kyle, anything to add for the Scar chapter?
Is it the woman with the spiral on her forehead there?
Yes.
Uh, I to be honest, I didn't really like that one. I just found it quite boring.
What are you
I
stuffing in your mouth, bro?
oh, you here? My bad.
Yes.
My bad. Popcorn.
This guy, you're here.
My bad.
It's all good. Eat up,
No,
eat up.
it's just that I got a call, so I was talking. I'm like, oh, in the meantime, I'll do a little popcorn.
That's a good idea. Low on calories, right?
Exactly.
You guys with your
the smart
midnight popcorns, I swear.
I don't understand you, man. Like, everybody knows me for my 2 a.m. sandwiches.
So when I'm
Exactly.
crunching, you guys hear it?
No, we don't
No,
hear
no.
it. But when you had a mouthful, we could.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so essentially, we're gonna move on from the Scar and go to the firing effect. One of the best chapters for me, where we see that Kyrie's dad, the artist, the one that does pottery, is getting obsessed with his work. He's actually very passionate, as per usual, but a little bit extra. It starts always like that, just a little bit extra, a little bit weird. But then we see that he goes and takes his mud from the dragonfly pond where the ashes that came from the cremated people fell. And that's how he made the different pot that he would then put into the kiln. I think that's the word. The place where it's
Yeah.
very hot. Yeah, there you go. And you put the mud to harden and take form there. But yeah, essentially, Kyrie starts to spy on him and starts to hear some voices come out of the kiln, and voices in distress and pain. And she was trying to ignore those voices for the most part and investigate on the what her dad was doing. And once she found out all those details, she didn't really know what to do. So her boyfriend called, and he saw that Kyrie was distressed herself, and she didn't want to talk about it, about the voices that she would hear. Voices that strangely resembled people she knew. Somehow, she thought it was only voices in her head. But then through the phone, Shuichi, my boy Shuichi, could hear the voices coming out from, like, calling from the kiln. And he rushed in, it was late at night. And as he got up to Kyrie's dad, that was looking at the fire and appreciating the work, the process, right? He heard the voices of his dad and his mom, and he couldn't bear their suffering, their pleas to help. So he destroyed the kiln to the great discontent of Kyrie's father. And the whole place burned down. They have like two places, a place where they eat, sleep, and do like their house, main house, and the place where they have the kiln and all the art stuff. And that place completely burned down. But essentially, that's the story overall. And I would like you guys to interject, like which part you particularly liked, if it was something that you liked. If not, what were your complaints?
Again, me, I think what I really liked of it was the freaky aspect of it, And yeah, it was freaky, but it was just a guy that looked obsessed with it, So it wasn't my favorite chapter also.
Yeah.
So I have some chapters that are clear in my mind, that are like I remember every single detail. That one is a bit fuzzy, to be honest.
Okay.
And that's like chapter 4, right?
Yeah, chapter 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Jacky?
How can I say this? It's as you will go on chapters by chapters. I think this will happen a lot. Is that in general, what bothered me with the manga is that I found that the story was not intriguing me. Oh boy,
Yeah.
was not. I did
It
not
didn't
find it.
pique your interest.
Yeah, we can say it like that. I don't know what was it, but like that chapter for me felt a bit like the previous one. It felt a bit empty. I wasn't again interested in what was going on. To me, they were all events.
Okay.
This is what happens, but I don't know. There's no intrigue. There's no suspense. I felt there was nothing to grab onto, or that was grabbing me to continue, or to get the interest to know what was going on. So I don't know. I don't know what was the problem in that chapter, because you said what didn't you like. I couldn't point out. I just felt like completely neutral and just neutral. Just I don't know what I'm reading. I don't know where this is going, but I don't hate it. It's not like this is bad. This is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is bad writing
When
or
we
whatever.
ask you what didn't you like, it's hard to put a finger on it.
No, exactly. It's just I'm just watching the images. I'm just reading the text, but I feel nothing.
Well, you see, for me, it didn't do the most effect compared to all the chapters that are yet to come. And let's say chapter 2, which was the follow-up in the spiral obsession with the mother, this part. This part, essentially, the firing effect, the reason why I really liked it was because we could see some very strange things happening in the kiln. And that intrigued me. I was like, how come that this mud that is that has ashes in them of real people give those strange spiral-like forms as it burned, right? And people were intrigued. Wow, it looks very peculiar. It's interesting. You're becoming a better artist. The dad was motivated also for that. He saw that that special mud from the dragonfly pond was making him a lot of attraction, and he was also getting obsessed with spirals, because, as I said, everything that comes out of that kiln and that mud is filled with spirals. But as it burns, real people are there. You can see their faces. Even when you extract the end result, you can see some of the faces of real people inside, and you're like, something is really wrong with this mud, with this air, with those spirals. What is going on? And it seems like they're dead, right? They died. They clinically were declared dead in the hospital. They were cremated, and now it's like their remnants in mud that somehow managed to bring them back with us and still suffer in the fire of the kiln, right? And Shuichi, the reaction he had to seeing his parents suffering in that fire was very emotional for me. It was like in total rejection of that, you know? He fought against it. He went ahead and destroyed private property so that he could free his seemingly the soul of his parents from it. But I don't know, that really intrigued me. I was like, yo, it seems like, because we saw it with the dad too. We saw that in this story there are more unreal things, things that are not entirely in the material world, the spirits of some kind. And it started for me to to be really a clear point, like I was looking for it in future chapters. So that's why I really liked it.
We can move on to the next one.
Yeah. Because every time we'll have chapters that also doesn't seem to say much, but at the same time let you on to something interesting. Twisted.
Honestly, there are for me chapters where I was I have many things to say. I have many things to say about them, and there are chapters where I maybe have nothing to say about them, like this one.
Yeah,
so,
Twisted Soul. Oh, my bad. I thought you were talking about the next one.
Well, even the next ones.
Yeah, so Twisted Soul, two lovers, right?
Next one is the Romeo and Juliet that we deserved.
Exactly. Yukiko and Kazu something. I forgot. My bad. My Japanese is not too good, sadly. But essentially, two lovers from families that hate each other, and their love is so strong that, enhanced by the power of the spiral, they imitate the snakes and essentially entangle themselves in a way that you cannot separate them anymore, in a spiral-like form, twisted, like some kind of helix, like DNA or something. And yeah, man, they go on and live the rest of their lives. I don't know how long or short, but they go on and live together, inseparable. Something that they wished they could have all their lives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah,
Well,
I found it was it was just a little fun short story. Yeah, I was wondering. Um, I think it was around this point where it gonna be just 18 little tiny short stories and we call it a day or not there.
Yeah,
So I found that not this one, but in a couple of ones where I found it was becoming almost redundant, right? Where I was looking at some stories piqued the interest. Like, there's one that I really, really enjoyed there, but where I was just like, okay, it's gonna be a new person, and as soon as we meet that person is just gonna die a gruesome death, and there you go, right? So I was being little scared at that point. Like, was this gonna be it there? I think they overcame that, but that was the feeling I had after finishing. Which I enjoyed the lovers thing there, but I was just like, is it just gonna be just more of this, you know? So I was a bit let's say scared going into the next ones, just in terms that I hope that they would develop it further.
yeah. You were like monster of the week type of thing, and it seems like more than half doesn't interest me. I think it's gonna be a long ride.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not that they didn't interest me. It's just that I was just some of them I felt were better than others, but like in everything there. So.
Yeah, yeah. My bad. I didn't want to put words that weren't yours in your mouth. What about you, Jackie?
um, I can agree with that. I had a bit of the same fear where I thought that maybe this is what you know. It's everything is told from the perspective of Kyrie, but every chapter is going to be this short story about some characters in the village, and uh, since because of the quality of the previous chapters, I was hoping this would not be the case for the next chapters.
You had hope.
I had hope, but at that point, I was really expecting not to be what I thought it would be. Individual stories about each character.
Yeah.
I think I think towards the end, I mean, we're getting to that, but towards the end, they focus a bit more on the two main characters. So this is what I was looking for.
Perfect.
But
Chapter 6, Medusa.
This is what Dragon Ball should have been.
Well, I think I kind of see it. I see what you want to say. Yep.
First, she had Super Saiyan, and then Super Saiyan 2, and then Super Saiyan 3. And then bad bitch comes and says, bitch, I got that hair. I got that hair.
It was all around the growing, twisted hair that Kyrie and her classmate had. But essentially, it started only with Kyrie and her attention deprived comrade was jealous. Very, very much so. To the point where they had a duel of Medusa, and she lost. One of the things that amused me the most in that story was that every time they tried to cut Kyrie's hair, the hair started strangling people and defend itself like it was sentient, and it's kind of crazy. And then yeah, it ended in the other classmate that wanted so much attention more and more, because every time the hair grows, people from further back can see, right? And she was so obsessed that she made it grow a little bit too much. It drained all her life energy, and she died stuck on a electrical post, or I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
yeah, she got electrocuted.
No,
because
no,
of
no,
the-
no. It wasn't electrocution. It was
No.
completely being drained of your life force, your energy.
Oh, okay. Oh well.
Because if you look at the chapter, the more it goes forward, the more you can see creases in their face. And you can see often they say, "Hey, you look tired" or something. And yeah, the more they made it grow, or it grew itself, the more feeble they became until almost nothing remained, only the skull, right?
Okay, I see.
What did you guys think of that story? Like, I thought it was good, actually.
Yeah, I think the next three are the ones that I remembered the most, where I found that they were, well, maybe not this one, but the next two I find were one of the more memorable ones, little short stories there.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this one. I found it was a fun, but like Jackie said, right? Some of them were I enjoyed them. I didn't love them, but they were good, you know.
Okay, maybe we can give them a grade to go a little quicker. If you say they were good, okay.
Like me, this is like
A
a B
6 out
tier.
of 10. B tier, okay.
Yeah, B tier. You know, just like it was enjoyable. It's not in the best ones, but yeah, it wasn't bad.
Same thing, I would rate it B. It's just that I seem a little bit more enthusiastic. What about you, Jackie?
It's a C tier. For me, it's average. Like it's a bit like Twisted Souls and the firing effect. Like I wasn't interested in it.
Okay. Do you have something more on your heart that you want to say, or we can move?
No, we can move. Honestly, we can move here.
Jack in the Box, Chapter 7.
I think
Uh,
this was one of my favorite ones.
it's a
I found
crazy,
far
crazy story.
more interesting. I just found the visuals of it were cool. Like when he gets hit by the car. And then
My
you cut
god.
to it, that was the one that I found the most. Yeah, and it's like not disgusting. It's just like, ooh, like I don't know how to explain it. It was just uneasy, you know.
It's bad. I know what you mean, man. You look at that and you're like, it seems it's cartoony, right? It's ink in a piece of paper, but I feel it. I feel it disturbingly real. It was something, man. Essentially, there was that classmate that is known as the Jack in the Box, and he's completely enamored by Kyrie. He wants her attention. He wants her to like him, and he offers her a present. And she's like, I had enough of your bullshit. I didn't open the present, and I'm gonna give it back to you because every time you make your moves, right, I just like you less and less. Then he's like, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't think that you would react in that way, but I think that I can get your love in this way. My love will stop this car. And he jumps in front of a speeding car and gets completely fucked up. And yeah, man, he gets completely stuck in the front wheel, dismembered. They have to bury him in a closed casket. And yeah, since it's a Jack in the Box and he always jumped out of nowhere, they feared that he might come back to life and jump out of his grave. So they tried to exorcise him or something, put a stake in his heart so that he doesn't come back to life. And yeah, it was crazy because he did come back to life. What
The
did you think
literal.
about it, Jackie?
I liked it. Honestly, it would be B tier for me. This one, it's at this point in the manga, it starts to pick up.
Yeah.
For me, at this point, we're going towards the part that I like the most. So, yeah, I'd say it's a B tier. It was very enjoyable, and yeah, I had a fun time with it. Because like for Medusa and for Twisted Soul, I was the whole thing about the manga is like, okay, what's the spiral effect going to do next? Like,
Yeah, you're
what?
curious. You're like, what
Yeah,
is this phenomenon? What is gonna
yeah.
happen to these
And
villagers? To
for the previous chapters, what happened did not pique my interest. I was like, I don't really care. This is weird, but in a not in a good way, in a boring way.
in a
And
Japanese way, yeah, I understand you.
I didn't say Japanese. I said it in a boring way. I didn't. But the Jack in the Box, I thought it was a good idea. It was something that
It was
was
more Western, right?
get
You
out
know,
of here.
it's Jack in the Box. It's in the title.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe you need a little bit of the West inside the eat so that it gets good.
We move on to the next chapter. One of the most troubling, one of the most revered chapters of this manga.
Disgusting. I hated and liked it. Where it was just gross.
The snail. In Japanese, it is said to be pronounced Hitomamai, aka the snail person. What a chapter. Like the title says in Japanese, people are turning into snails, bro. And it's not pretty. It's a process that starts slowly. People start to sweat profusely. They're hot, they have to drink a lot of water, and then they become very slow. And then they start having spirals in their back. And then it kind of grows slowly but surely. Then, my god, they start to fall. Their legs become weak, so they have to crawl. And then it becomes even more disgusting, where they actually get that shell completely formed, and now the eyes are popping up slowly, and then it's a complete snail form. But it's human-sized, so it's really big, right? And that's, I think, called body horror, where it's a horrific thing for people. Everybody is scared more or less of things in life, but some people are really scared to see their body transform without their will and lose control, like what happened to the poor souls of that story. What did you guys think of this chapter? I know Kyle said some words. Jacky, maybe?
Disgusting. Yeah, I think that's the right word. Really, really disgusting, but very, very good. Yeah, probably A tier. Like one of the best of the manga. Really disgusting. Very, the sweat on his face before he transforms, and the way he transforms, and the ugly motherfucking looking snake. It was really horrible to watch, but very entertaining. Until because at first it's only like that one student that gets he gets bullied and people are mean to him, and he transforms, and then there's this other students,
The bully.
and then yeah, the bully, and then afterwards I think it's a teacher.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
teacher. The teacher saw them copulate because it seems like snails are hermaphrodites, and that
Mhm.
even though both of the students were male, once fully transformed, they could do it. And they
Yeah.
escaped and laid eggs in the forest. And Kyrie and the teacher, and I think another. No, it might be just them two. They went there and they discovered the eggs. So the teacher was like, this is inhumane, this is disgusting, and needs to be burned and needs to be erased from the surface of the planet Earth. And starts completely destroying the eggs with his foot, with his shoe. And yeah, man, wouldn't you know, a couple days afterwards, he comes into class in snail form. The poor guy has been condemned also. One of the scenes that really was nasty for me was when the parents came and they were like, this is not our child. This can't be. I think this really spoke to me also. You're like, at which point you're not human anymore. That's what that theme to me was present in the chapter and was important and made me think a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Kyle, I know you said that you were very disgusted, but do you have
Well, I was like what you just said, completely grossed out from it. But like Jackie said, it worked. You know, like it. I think it really like showed that feeling that I was getting used to, and what I found was enjoying was how will the spiral affect these people, right?
Yeah.
And it just it it disgusted me with such like I was reading it, and it was the first chapter where before I was troubled. I found it a bit nasty sometimes, and you're sometimes like recoiling a bit, going, "Ooh, that's gross." But this one, I was like, I had to like pass some like scroll down faster because I found it too disgusting for me.
Relatable. Yeah, A tier. A tier might be S tier, to be honest. It's really, really good. So, highlight of the story for now, just like the first two chapters for me. The Black Lighthouse. This is chapter 9.
Yeah, another chapter that I liked a lot. Not for the same reason as the snail. You know, the snail was disturbing. It was disgusting. But the Black Lighthouse, I found it intriguing. I found it
Mysterious.
mysterious. Exactly. It was structured a bit like a thriller. Like what's going on in the Black Lighthouse, and people have been disappearing and everything. So I don't know. It started very strongly, and children die, so always interesting. And
You
yeah,
sick fuck.
yeah. Well, in a story, it's you need that kind of death. And then
My.
and there's a lot also of beautiful images with the lighthouse. I really liked it. I liked the art style.
The
With
art was
the
good. That's
yeah.
true. I really
So
liked the depiction of when you are far from the lighthouse, the strength of the light.
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
and you could feel it twisting too. It was not a regular straight line. It was very, very strange, very mysterious. But
Yeah.
the craziest part is as they went up, what they found, and the
Hmm.
imagery that was waiting there, and then the realization that it's at every sunset that the lighthouse starts to emit light. And yeah, man, they knew they were going to be toast if they don't get out. Thankfully, main character privilege, Kyrie and her little brother managed to save themselves, but a
Yeah,
lot of
they were
people,
safe for the moment,
a
but
lot of people perished. A lot of people
yeah.
perished in that black house. And don't go around spoiling shit, bro. I mean, people, if you're looking at this review, you gotta know. You gotta
I
know.
mean, that's the goal of the homework. If you hear this because you've seen it, you've read it, whatever, you know
Yeah,
it.
yeah. We move on to chapter 10, mosquitoes. My goodness, that's an A tier if I ever saw one.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe it's my favorite one.
There
Maybe.
are two, right? To me, we have
Yeah.
to talk about it in mosquitoes and the umbilical cord. It's
Yes,
part one,
because it's
part two.
exactly in the hospital. So yeah, like I said, probably like if that one is not my favorite one, maybe it's the next one. But as I said, like from the snail, it starts picking up the rhythm, and I think we're at the top with the mosquitoes and the umbilical cord. The mosquitoes at the start, I was like, it's in the title, mosquitoes, and you see the holes in the people's bodies, so it kind of spoils it. But they got me with the surprise.
Oh, yes. Those were
So yeah,
not the insects I was thinking about.
yeah, no,
So essentially, we have Kyrie that goes in the hospital for I forgot the reason. I'm sorry, guys,
I
but
think it's because of the lighthouse, and she was hurt, and so she goes
yes,
to the hospital, and then yeah, now
she has her
there
cousin. her female cousin who is carrying a child that is well into development. Just like her, many other women are soon to go into labor. And it's kind of strange because it's like she's been put in maternity. Is it that, Kyle? Is it the right word?
Yeah.
Good, good. And yeah, she's there. She's feeling not too good because she needs to be there. So there's a reason. But Shuichi, her boyfriend, comes to visit, and he really doesn't like the atmosphere. He really is sensitive to the spiral, and he feels something is very wrong in that hospital, and brings, I don't know why, but that was a good move, some kind of like mosquito or insect repellent. And yeah, man, the rest is history. Essentially, when the light goes down, the true faces of the people come up. And yeah, man, those women that are soon to go into labor, they're hungry and they are thirsty. And the only thing that can quench that thirst is fresh blood. So they go around the hospital, doctors, how do you say the women that help out, infirmary? No, nurses, thank you. Nurses, patients. So they're really hungry, right? And Kyrie wakes up at night and sees what's happening, right? And they go, oh, the girl, she saw us, she can't live. And then starts the tension and everything. What did you think about the tension in this one, Jacky?
It was pretty good. Honestly, that's maybe why I liked it the most. Is that at this point in the story, you have the two elements that I really liked from the beginning. You're wondering what's going on. You don't understand. You're expecting something, but it's not what happens. Of course, you've got always like this flaw of the manga that you can see what's going to happen because you see all the images at once. So of course you've got that problem. But I feel that not knowing what was really going on, because you're thinking about the mosquitoes and everything, and turns out it's the pregnant woman that are pursing holes into people to suck their blood and everything. And then Kirie is chased. She's chased by these women, and the nurses get killed and everything. It was entertaining. It was suspenseful. So yeah, everything was there, and I really I really liked it.
It was amazing, man. She manages to survive the night, and the next day, every woman goes into labor. Every woman. It was crazy. So it's like they gave themselves the word, and yeah, the babies were born, and they were the most beautiful babies, like the manga said.
Now we get to the next part, which is also
Exactly.
very very. Now it's both. We're getting to the disgusting part.
Oh, oh yes.
Yeah,
That
nasty
was
as
twisted.
shit.
This chapter is the proof of what Kyle said, that this dude, he wrote that on drugs for shit.
I
For
mean,
sure.
did you
No doubt.
ever see him? He seems like a lot happier than people like Hayao Miyazaki, man. He has a big smile. He seems to enjoy life. Unlike
Exactly, he's a psychopath.
One has to be a psychopath to be enjoying life that much.
like you see his smile, you see how he lives his life. You're like, yo, this guy must draw nature, bright colors, and everything that is joyous in life. And then you look at his work, and you're like, yo, is it the right guy? Is there an error somewhere? Then you look at Hayao Miyazaki, who has this look of being dejected, right, by life, that seems to have seen too much and is kind of tired of it all. And you look at his work and you're like, bro, This is the most innocent, beautiful, pure-hearted. It's beautiful. I love it. Both of them.
He wants to make it easy for us. He wants to make us happy and enjoy life.
I think Junji Ito has the same philosophy too. It's just a different way of
Nah, man,
expressing
that
it.
dude is disturbed. But I thank him for his work.
The umbilical cord, chapter 11. What follows up after mosquitoes? All that blood went into nourishing those babies, and those babies come out healthy, looking fine, looking actually beautiful according to the book. And yeah, they look a little bit strange, and Kyrie suspects the babies. She's like, might have to get an eye on those. And she hears them speaking at like 1 day old. And they're like, yo, I am so hungry and cold. I just want one thing. And then everybody looks at each other and they're like, yes, we know what you want. We want it too. We want to return to Mama's womb. And then they're like, oh, Mama's
Nasty, bro.
womb.
Nasty.
It was
nasty.
so beautiful. It was so comfortable. That was the perfect bliss. And now it's kind of hellish. And their umbilical cord never ceases to grow in a spiral shape. And they have to cut it regularly because it's a symbol of it trying to reattach itself to the mother. And if you eat it, you begin to see things and be possessed by the spiral. And the main doctor ate some of it, and they put it in the soup, and everybody ate some except Kyrie. So yeah, man, the doctor comes out of the surgery room, the operation room, and he's like, my job is done. I have done it well. They are in a stable state. And Kyrie is like, what the hell are you talking about? She already gave birth. And then he's like, please don't go into that room. And she goes into that room. And what does she see? Jackie, tell
Most
us.
nasty fucking
Kyle,
panel
Kyle, tell us
bro.
what she sees.
Put back the baby. You know when you return the article, this is what she did. Oh God.
My goodness. He literally opened up the women in two. From the chest to you know where. And saw her, like, not saw, you know how, I don't know how you say it, where you put something back together. Yeah, I don't know. He stapled her or something, right? He
Yeah, with
stapled her
stitches.
back, yeah, with stitches. And yeah, man, she was like, "Oh, I don't feel so good, Mr.
Oh, shit.
Stark." And then she was like, "I need blood." And then the doctor is like, "You got a fresh meal right here." He how do you say? Puts Kyrie into a chokehold, and Kyrie is like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die," and she uses all her force to push everybody like in the hold in under a lack of balance, right? And yeah, man, as she went in for the suck, she she went in for the duck, and Kyrie went away and never came back to that hospital.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the whole story, the two parts, I found it very, very, very nice. It was very well told, good images, uh, you know, disgusting and all, but still intriguing.
I know you'd put it in a frame and show it to your parents, of course.
Would I would definitely do that. I think as a Christmas gift or something like that. Maybe
Yeah,
Valentine's gift.
yeah. And I don't know, man. I think I would respect you, but at the same time, I would see you differently. That's for sure. My God,
Uh,
it was horrendous. It was horrific. That's the right word. We move on
Yep.
to chapter 12, the storm. Do you guys
Yeah,
even
so
remember the storm? It was
yeah, not really. It's one of those chapters that I know what happened, but again, not really interesting to me. It was a bit dull as a chapter.
it was
I
a
don't remember a
massive
lot much.
downgrade. Like we went from S tier to C tier, even maybe D tier. I really
I don't
didn't like it.
remember.
I didn't like it. It was essentially trying to stay outside of the eye of the cyclone, of the typhoon. And yeah, man, the typhoon felt challenged by Kyrie and tried its best to kill her. So strong winds, and yeah, man, everything to make obstacles to them and hit them in their face at like 80 miles per hour with I don't know what kind of heavy object, or it even took them into the sky with a twister, and then they fell into the pond, so they survived. But I think it actually ended that way. They miraculously survived the last attack of the typhoon, and then we move on to the next chapter. Nothing much to say. Nobody even remembers this chapter.
Yeah, well, now that even the next, I don't have a lot of memories of it. Um, if you
The
yeah,
the
the
house
house, yeah,
The
the
house
house.
was very particular because the typhoon happened. Not everybody, but most people lost their homes, and they had to inhabit a house that was old. It's like in a remote district, not inhabited usually before the spiral events happened. It wasn't popular, and it was actually best to move from there. But actually, it had a magical property to uh, be a safe space for people in that time of crisis, from the winds and everything, right? But the more they stayed there, they had a neighbor, an old lady that had weird spiral spikes coming out of her body, and she hid her face and hid every other part of her body so that people wouldn't notice. But she was sick, and she was tending to somebody that was even more sick. And yeah, they were living there, the dad, the mom, Kyrie, and the little brother. And there was someone that was also spying on them, that was very interested into Kyrie. He had his eye in a crack and always looking, right? Like a voyeur. And yeah, essentially, the grandma comes out one day and says, "Oh, my son is dead. My son is dead from the illness," right? And when they go ahead to see, after they took the deceased body, the the place where he slept and all, he slept on the floor, but everything had holes in it, like holes everywhere. It's like those spikes that the mom had, but grew even more sharp and longer, so that every surface of his body was covered with them. And the person that was living inside that house, it's like a house that can host multiple families, is cursed to have that sickness. And everybody had become sick of that, and spikes were growing on their hands, on their forehead. Everybody had that problem, right? And they felt like they were getting sick with a mysterious illness and destined to die, right? So they panicked and everything. And what broke the panic was actually the guy that was looking in the cracks. He got infected too, but it grew faster, and he became a monster. He broke the wall that he was hiding behind, and as the wall broke, a little rat came out, and he picked it up and ate it with his bare teeth that became sharp because of the illness and everything. and everybody was completely terrified. They were like, yo, we're about to die. There's this monster that looks like this guy we knew, and that's probably gonna eat us after it's finished chewing on that rat. And yeah, man, the typhoon came through because as it began closing in on the main characters, the family, well, there was some kind of immense stake that the wind pushed straight into his throat and he died. It was very, very strange. A weird chapter. And as I explained it, I'm like, yo, not your best work, Junji Ito.
See that it was a lot of things happening, but in the end, not one of the memorable ones, not one of the best ones. So yeah, I think we can agree with that.
I agree. I have nothing else to add. You all honestly said exactly what I was feeling.
Perfect. Number 14, Butterflies. This one was special a little bit. I don't know if you guys remember.
I honestly I don't have any. You say that, and I have no memory of it.
There were no proper butterflies in the story. The word butterfly came out because essentially kids were flying.
Oh yeah, I remember. No, I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's like we're entering the last act at that point. I think like it's when the reporter crew comes into the city, and yeah, like Kyle said, I didn't like it either.
Yeah, I mean, not his best work to be honest.
There's like this big downgrade after you finish with the storyline at the hospital. It
Yeah,
goes down very, very, very fast.
like one more thing that is actually important that's introduced in this chapter is the fact that there are some special houses. I said it before, to be honest, so no, it's not new. Special houses that resist the winds of the spiral. So people are getting crammed in there. There are actually quite a lot of families that start to live in there. That's not the main issue in this chapter. It's gonna be coming up. But yeah, that's the context. It's more context for what is to come, to be honest. So what is to come? So we said that butterflies
I
was.
think the next ones, if I remember correctly, we're at 16, right?
We're at Chaos 15.
Oh, never mind then. Go ahead.
Chaos, more like hurricane people riding vortexes of air and destroying everything. And
Exactly. I didn't like this one also. I found it was the same thing as the one before. Same vibe, same. Like I wasn't interested.
But there is a part, right, where essentially the reporter tries to exit the city, and she founds like the tunnel to go into spirals and bring her back to where she left. So she's stuck like the rest of the people, and the house that was sheltering everybody actually decides to reject Kirie, Shuichi, and her family. So they kick out Shuichi in a random argument. Like essentially, Shuichi is rambling. He's talking like, "Oh my God, this town is going mad. People are going mad." And someone is like, "Stop mumbling. You're making me fucking depressed." I actually remember that line. And then he kicks him out, right? And then Kyrie attends to him, and the whole family comes, plus the reporter, and they're like, "Don't let them in anymore. We got some extra space now." So yeah, that's what happens. And then they're hungry, right? And it smells good, so they follow the smell, and they reach the hurricane gangsters, and the little brother is like, "Yo, can I have some too of that good stuff that you're cooking? Because it smells good." and then they see in the fire is roasting some snail shells, but some snail people shells. It's actually immense. And then they're like, yeah, for sure, it's just about ready. And they hack at it, and then you see the actual living thing roasted. The shell shatters, and you see that dead face in there with the meat, and they're salivating. They're like, let's eat. It's perfect. It's delicious. And they're like, have a bite, have a bite, have a bite. And they all refuse, right? But then they kind of force them. They instigate a problem. There's a fight. There's vortexes everywhere. And essentially it ends on a Shuichi grabbing Kirie from being projected too far away, and the sky becoming a vortex that actually takes in those gangsters that flew too high. So as they were like flying and taunting everybody, they went up a little too high, and the sky completely took them in. And only the main characters remain at the end of the chapter. Chapter 16. So yeah, it's getting crazy, as you guys can see. People are flying.
I find chapter 16 to 19 are like the real final act. You know, that's the last. You know, it's one big story. You know, I know the other ones before were starting to get it, but I find this is the point where it's like, okay, it's a 3-part short story kind of.
Exactly. It's like the final, you know, big arc that we have before the conclusion. That is actually one of the, to me, okay, we'll talk about it later. But 16 erosion, right? If I remember, if I see well, yeah, 16 erosion. In Japanese, Zokutu Koton, continued chaos. So yeah, that's the theme, right? They're trying to survive. They're trying to get out of town. They tried to go on rafts, and then there's a big ass gigantic whirlpool that swallows everybody and they die. So that's not an option. As I said, the tunnel's not an option. And then they're like, yo, let's try the mountains. I think, right? But before then, the members of the crew that will start the expedition, right, starts to feel unwell, some of them. And they pull their shirt up and they see some spirals on their back. It's actually growing. He's gonna become a snail person. And yeah, man, it's a curse that everybody is scared of, and everybody pulls their shirt up and try to see, is my back fine? And yes, no, yes. People freaking out. And yeah, essentially, they go on that expedition. Oh yeah, before then, they want to see if they can actually spend some time in that safe house that we talked about. They return to that house where they as I said previously, wanted more space because they were kind of crammed. And they discover that the people have become completely entangled in that house. Day after day, night after night, people snuck in, and the more people snuck in, the more entangled they became. And yeah, man, essentially they're not dead, but they can't be separated anymore. So imagine yourself a mass of human people, not dead, but looking in terrible pain. So concentrated in a house that it's breaking apart. You can see faces of people slowly breaking and coming out of the woodwork, and it's kind of crazy, to be honest. So what did you guys think of that imagery?
Yeah, I like the big plan there where you can see like all the what should we call it? Wait a minute. Yeah. Where it's like this big No, we're talking about 16, right?
Yeah.
Never mind. I was thinking of 17 in my mind. Sorry.
It's just before the expedition, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah,
It was good. It was good there. It was starting to pick up. That's what I enjoyed about it there. It was like, uh like we're getting to the good thing, getting to like, because they've been talking about the spiral forever and like how it affects people,
yeah,
but you don't know nothing about it. Nothing. No information. So it's this like weird thing, and now you're like, ooh, okay, they're actually gonna get into it and show us what this spiral's gonna mean, hopefully.
yeah. You can feel it that it's getting somewhere, and just before the
Taking
chapter ends, like the last hope of the external world coming in to save them was the Coast Guard. So massive sea ships that came through, and yeah, people were happy until they saw a gigantic whirlpool take them in and completely make them disappear. So they were like, "Yo, this is this is bad. This is really bad. We can't count on anybody but ourselves." And yeah, we're that's near the end of the chapter, and then they're kind of dying of hunger. Not dying, but they're hungry. They're real hungry, and their rations are up. And they found the remainings of the, the gangsters that flew up into tornadoes. They find the remainers of that snail person they cooked, and they're like, "Yo, we don't have much of a choice. We have to." And then what does he say? Besides, this isn't human anymore. We can't afford to be dignified. And then they're like, "You'll see, it doesn't taste too bad. It's actually pretty good. If I knew sooner, I would have eaten one sooner." Yeah. So yeah, they are pressuring people to eat and all. Kyrie doesn't. Actually, everybody eats because if they don't, they die. So it kind of ends on a very difficult panel where the little brother, Kyrie's brother, is in pain, and they look at his back, and yeah, he's growing a spiral that is a lot like the one the snail people grow before completely transforming. So that was chapter 16, very, very packed. A lot of different things happened. Hopes getting crushed, and near and dear people getting put in danger. And then chapter 17, escape. Oh yeah, my
Chapter
bad.
7.
16. Jackie, I didn't talk to you about that. What did you think about 16?
Well, it's basically the same thing that I thought about 15 and 14. I think we're down. It's a downgrade compared to what we saw previously, and at this point I was a little bit detached from the story. I was not interested anymore, so I felt it was a bit slow, and I was not captivated anymore. So I was just waiting it out. I don't remember a lot of things from those chapters, honestly, because I don't think there was a lot to that was memorable to me. And yeah, until the point, I think it's as you mentioned it now, like the end when you know that Kiria's brother is affected by the spiral effect. Now it gets a bit more interesting, and now they decide to leave the city. At that point, it caught my interest back. So chapter 17, that's where I was more interested in what was going on.
Yep, it starts really strong. The escape, I think it's called just that. Chapter 17, escape, where we can see some people that think that they're essentially condemned to live in this village forever. So they start rebuilding, and the person that seems to be at the helm of that project is Mr. Tanizaki. And Mr. Tanizaki wasn't alone. It's a big endeavor, so people are building houses in a particular shape in a particular arrangement so that they don't get destroyed like the rest of the village, because it's almost completely destroyed. And then they go and try to escape from the mountains. And as they venture, they can see that nature itself has been very twisted. Trees are twisted. Every kind of herb is twisted and resembles a spiral. And they meet explorers that essentially come across on the same path, but they come from, like, it's a very peculiar way to tell you. It's more easily shown, but imagine that we're walking in a straight line, and then we see some people approaching us from a straight line, and then we meet at the middle point and we ask each other, where do you come from? Both of the parties answered that they just left the village, and there is like an understood single path forward from the village to the mountains. So it's very, very strange. It seems like the spiral effect has already put our main characters in a predicament.
They can't leave. They can't leave, so they eventually come back.
And yeah, they can see, actually, that's very sad, because as you remember, that same other party is composed of the people that were scared of becoming snails, and they actually took the person that was to become a snail with them and chained them so that they wouldn't flee, because they knew that they would need the food. Imagine being that guy that knows that the sickness is progressing and that you're on a leash essentially, and as soon as you lose consciousness, or at least change form, because we don't know what's happening inside you exactly, you change form, you lose your bipedal human form into the snail, your mates are gonna eat you. That's fucked up, guys. I have to hear you. Please tell me you wouldn't feel okay doing this.
Of course not. The whole fucking thing is whack, you know.
Because man, I know some of you guys are big fans of individual liberties and utilitarianism. So I was like, maybe eating your mate for the greater pleasure. Like it's one life, your mate, right?
I mean,
and everybody eats well.
Yeah, but that would be a whole conversation, a long conversation, because we could talk about this, and I could, give you parameters or a specific context where you would think about it, at least.
Oh no, I am not saying that there are no valid perspectives and opinions on that. It's just that it really puts it into perspective, let's say. Junji Ito has done a great work in the chapters that you don't even think mean much to put profound philosophical and moral dilemmas into them. So, yeah, man, he's like, he's the most important member of our party. It's to make sure he doesn't run off that we've put him on a leash. He's our emergency food supply. We didn't know how long we'd be out here. Soon he'll turn into a snail, and then we'll be able to eat him. Look at that shell. It's full of meat. He's excited. So yeah, essentially they continue walking, and the transformation is progressing for their mate and for Kyrie's little brother. And they become suspicious of Kyrie's little brother. He starts to say things like, I need you to scratch my back, please. It itches. And everybody turns around and tries to, What are we talking about back there? It's not too apparent. They disguise it as a backpack, but Kyrie knows full well that it's not a backpack at all. And then their mate completes the transformation. And they're like, we should cook him. And the boss tells them, you know what? I'd like to try one raw. And then everybody's like, raw? Hey, that's a good idea. He pulls out a knife. As he approaches, the snail goes back into its shell. And then he's like, yo, screw it. We're just gonna crack open that shell. And he's like, no, we don't need to eat that. Did you know that some insects eat snails in this way? And he shows how nature does stuff. He puts his head into that orifice of the shell and crawls slowly into it to reach the snail far into the shell. And then you can read and imagine yourself the sounds, because that's what I'm doing, right? It's not a movie, but I'm hearing stuff. I'm feeling stuff, and I'm hearing some kind of munch, scrunch and shit like that. Gulps. He's gulping, and he's pushing his head further and further, crawling in. My God, what did you guys think of all that part of the chapter?
I just think that later on it's bigger, so I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. Like until you explained it, it's not something that is like super memorable, you know, like the mosquito and the pregnant ladies and the the people that intertwine there. So
that's interesting. You didn't find it too...
No, I don't know. I think I just saw so much of it. I was just getting excited to... This is when I think Jacky said we're uninterested of the story, where I didn't care. I just wanted answers now.
Yes, okay.
Waiting for it. So, maybe if I read it a second time, maybe I would be able, I guess, to appreciate it more. But if not, I think it was just it was more forgettable than me, because I was just so excited to know what this fucking spiral is.
What about you, Jacky? Did you at least remember it?
I think he's gonna be back later. So.
Yeah, okay. Well, I hope that he'll be back soon, because that end of the chapter is pretty damn good. Essentially, they move on into the forest, completely lost still. But as the little brother transforms, they try to lose the rest of the party. Because they're like, yo, as soon as we won't be able to hide him, they'll eat him. Or we'll have a big fight about the way that we'll deal with the situation. And they're pretty much kids or teens versus grown adults that are equipped with knives and everything. You don't want to mess with that. So
yeah.
They move on. They're like, let's try to find our way. But essentially, they meet again. And they seem completely possessed by the spiral. And they are asking why they left them, right? They're getting suspicious. And they're asking about the little brother. He's strange. And why is he so swollen in his back? And, and they're hungry. And they're... stuff is happening. Like I said, everything is becoming more and more twisted. The trees, the tree stumps where Shuichi sees his father in them. It's becoming a fever dream. And not much longer afterwards, the little brother completes the transformation. But yeah, before then, Jacky, I don't know if you heard me retelling the story about when they they saw the teammate completely transform, and he proceeded to eat him raw.
Yeah, well, that scene, like the whole chapter, I don't remember everything well, but that scene I remember well, when he crawls into the what's it called, the shell, when he
Yes.
crawls into the shell to eat yeah, the creature that I remember well. It was kind of fucked up,
Oh
but
my
at this point
god.
in the story, you're used to it.
It was bad. I was like, oh my god. So yeah, we move on, and essentially they start running because the little bro is completely transformed. He doesn't speak English or Japanese anymore, but he seems to cooperate a little bit. They try to do some kind of a plan to let him escape. So they
Yeah,
dive.
they try to push him off a cliff so that he can slide down the cliff.
Yeah. They aid him with some pokes with a stick, right? They're like, "Yo, go ahead, please, fast!" And then they like try their best to mimic like they're still transporting the snail with their back turned to the other people, so that they don't look down the cliff. And they really got them because they didn't focus on the little brother, the snail brother, escaping. They actually came for them, and yeah, as they come up to them, they start retelling how much fun, how tasty the snail was, and how he really wants to taste it again, right? Experience it again. And as he starts to retell the story of how he crawled into that spiral to eat it raw, and he felt himself becoming a spiral because the shape his body had to contort in. Um, it's like his whole body. He lost now the control of the shape of his whole body, and and his teammates became spirals. It's actually crazy. They start contorting themselves. They can't walk anymore. They fall on the ground, and yeah, they're completely out of commission. It's not a danger anymore to our main party. And the chapter ends on something very peculiar. They're like, "Hey, we should be near the town by now." And they look out from the cliff to the town, and then there is a big what moment. What happened? And we're
Yeah,
like, "Yo, what could it be?"
yeah. So when there's the labyrinth, like the town has been reshapen in the form of a spiral that looks like a labyrinth, like those circle labyrinths where you know, as the radius gets closer to the center, you've got only one path to get to the center of the whole circle.
Exactly, chapter 18, the labyrinth. And it's exactly like Jackie said. We go into the chapter knowing that it is the village, but a moment ago, before the expedition in the forest and the hill, it was completely destroyed. Mr.
Yeah. So
Mr. Tanizaki was talking about rebuilding it, and now they come back and they see it rebuilt. It's crazy.
yeah. So what they basically learn is that time passed way faster at the center of the village around Dragonfly Pond, and where they were in the previous chapters, trying to escape. Time went down slower, so when they come back, they had the time to rebuild the whole town, and they have not rebuilt it the way it was. They've rebuilt it in that spiral form, so that it doesn't get destroyed by the winds. Because the houses that stood up and that were not affected by the winds were the one already, you know, in
In
the shape of the
place.
spiral, yeah, in place. So yeah, they basically go through all the the alleys to get to the middle. They lose one of their. I think there's a
Yeah,
the
it's
one,
the
the
TV
reporter.
reporter. Yeah.
Yeah, they lose her, and then they get to the center, and now there's this big ass spiral stair. These big ass spiral stairs that are going down into the middle of Dragonfly Pond, but there's no more water. it's only like this big hole in the ground, so they start descending it.
Before that we reach that point, as they were
Mhm.
traversing, they meet Mr. Tanizaki.
Yes.
That aged up a lot and that is transporting some corpses. He seems to collect them and put them into the houses in some kind of storage function. It's actually kind of crazy because he's still normal, it seems, but he does some very bizarre work for his community. Because as Jacky said, he led the project to rebuild it in the proper shape so that it doesn't get destroyed anymore. Because yeah, I thought they were magical houses, right? They were old and mystical, but actually no. It was just their alignment with the currents that are in spiral form. So yeah, they talk with him, and the most important part of that discussion is, where is my father? Where is the man that did pottery? And he says that the ceramics guy, the man that does pottery, is still doing pottery just by the dragonfly pond. And where is the dragonfly pond? It is at the center of the village, at the center of the spiral. So that's when they reach it. Kirie and Shuichi, there is no pond to be seen. There is only a spiral staircase that goes down and down and down and down. And yeah, that's absolutely crazy, right? They're like, after all that happened, and the smoke in the sky that is still descending to the center, to Dragonfly Pond, right? They're like, I don't know how to say it. They don't know what everything is. And they see that the water receded from the pond and time has advanced and everything, but they are still motivated by a goal that pushes them even through all those incomprehensions and the loss of the TV reporter and the loss of the brother and the loss of so many things. But there is still some hope that they might find the mother and father of Kirie by the Dragonfly Pond. So yeah. Shuichi says that it looks like ancient ruins, and they go hand in hand together down that staircase. So that's the end of chapter 18. What did you guys think of it on a tier list?
Again, I
B
think
tier.
yeah, B. I think it's just that, like I've been saying, I think these last episodes they're meh, right? It's just because I want to know, like I'm getting a bit tired of when I was reading it. I was just like, I just really want to know, because they hyped it up so much. Now they're like delaying and I was just like, let's go, let's start. So that's why I think the next episode is the one that the next like two are the one that really interest me.
Chapter 19, man. Chapter 19 is called Completion. And yeah, I believe
go down.
it is my favorite. I believe it is my favorite. So since chapter 18 sets it up, I'm gonna be kind and I'm gonna put it at B tier.
19?
No, 18, B tier.
Oh, okay.
20, for me, 20 is the final chapter. The rest is kind of extra story, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Might not be, might have misunderstood the work, but that's how I see it. Essentially, Kyle, you said it, right? They go down the staircase. And yeah, one thing that is pertinent to me is the fact that they found a deformed, weak person on the staircase. And that deformed, weak person that is almost passed out, dying, takes a couple of last breath and energy to ask, wait, take me with you. There's supposed to be something wonderful down there. So he says something very, very interesting, because we don't know what's down there yet. And that's curious. That's a curious way to talk about.
But then he grabs onto the guy, if I remember right, and he just throws himself in the hole.
Essentially, Shuichi says that they don't have much strength and they can't carry him down. So he becomes angry and orders to take him with them, right? And he bites the leg of Kirie and entangled himself with Shuichi, and then lets go of the bite that because it's kind of crazy, it happens fast, and then they both fall into the pit, and Kirie is very scared because she just saw her boyfriend fall to his death. Probably she can't even see the bottom of the hole, and he fell from that far. So she goes down and down and down and started to see a light from below. And it grew as she came closer. The staircase ended and the pointy tower started. And she goes from the first place to the second, but I believe she slips or something to that effect. And when she slips and falls down, she says, "I thought I was going to die because it was a very high tower. But for some reason my body fell slowly as if a great whirlwind were carrying me down." And then she falls into a pile of innumerable bodies that are all twisted in spiral forms. She looks up into the air and she sees some immense structures that are radiating light and weird energy. It's like heat and light is coming out of these stuff and contorting in spiral form. And every structure there is spiral form like. And it seems like it's organic, but at the same time built by some kind of advanced civilization. You don't really understand what, how, where, what's happening, right? She describes it as something that is unlike anything she has ever seen, an ancient ruin that emits mesmerizing lights, and starts searching for Shuichi. Through the piles of bodies, the more she goes forward, the more they become completely hardened, because it's like they're fresh where she landed, and the more distance she walks, their bodies hardened and became like rock, like stone, like statues. And one of the statues that she discovers is one of her mom and dad embracing themselves with mostly intact faces but distorted bodies with spiral forms. So she cries. She finally finds her parents, and then not too far is her boyfriend. And she's happy to see him alive, but he can't walk anymore. And according to Shuichi, the ruins are a living thing, and it's like it has a will of its own. And he kind of feel it invading himself at every moment. He says it's like it's cursing us for being underground, hidden from all the eyes up there. Spirals suck things in the eye, follows the pattern to its center. I don't know who or what built it here or why, but every so often, every few hundred or thousands or tens of thousand years, it can reach the people above the ground, and even though its builders are gone, maybe it's still building itself. And yeah, he refused to run away anymore, and he asks Kyrie to keep on fighting and to leave him behind her. And she refuses. She tells him that she can't run anymore either, and she's staying with him. They embrace. Their body starts deforming, taking spiral forms, and the city starts to rumble and emit otherworldly sounds. And then the tower that is connected to the spiral staircase starts spinning and going upwards, matching perfectly the form of the spiral, and essentially plugging the entrance, completely closing it off. And with the spiral complete, a strange thing happened. Just as time had sped up when we were on the outskirts, in the center of the spiral, it stood still. So the curse was over the same moment that it began. The endless frozen moment that I spent in Shuishi's arms, my bad. It will be the same moment when it ends again, when the next Kurozucho, the name of the village, is built where the ruins of the old once lay. When the eternal spiral awakes once more. The end. What a crazy, absolutely demented end of a manga. What did you guys think about this final chapters, those answers of all those questions, or supposedly it was supposed to answer
I don't know
most
if you
of
can
them?
call them answers, yeah, because you said, as we prepared for the podcast, you said, what are the questions you have about the manga? Well, that's one of my questions, is that, the ending, I don't really understand it. I don't think we've got much answers. I don't know what story was all about when I'm looking at it as a whole. I'm like, what am I supposed to get from this? What does this ending mean? What is this?
What about you, Kyle? Do you have some
Yeah, I
feelings?
think. Well, I would really really enjoy like one of the panels. Like it's a double pager, and there's like you just see like this huge eye, and then these like columns and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
found it was very cool looking, and then it went on, and I guess I was so wrapped up in knowing like what the fuck this is that when I got to the end and I didn't get an answer, I was just like, all right. I was just like, okay, like
You killed me right there.
I was slightly disappointed, and like at the end of the day, I was just like, it's okay if it's not the best ending because it was a fun journey, right? I enjoyed a lot of it, but the ending, like the last couple episodes before the last one, I was so excited to know what it meant that I kind of like just blew past through them, read them quickly just to I didn't skip anything there. I read everything, but like I just didn't think about it. I just wanted to know the answer. So when I got at the end, I was just slightly disappointed.
Yeah, it's not the kind of work that you can do that with and expect to have a satisfying answer out of it. And I would say that the first time I read it, I felt about the same as you guys. But on my second read through, I realized that this whole thing was about reincarnation, pretty much. It's a
I
central, it's a central theme in the story, and that city that is below and the effect that it has on people and the last couple of panels that are talking about a repeating cycle that will eventually happen on a newly built village in the upcoming hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of years, speaks to it too. And the shape of the spiral also is a reference to that concept too. It's not very clear, but you can see what the spirit of it is all about. To me, that's how I understand it. And when we were talking about what is this story trying to say, and every chapter when I was telling you guys what I understood out of every curse that happened, I think it's something that culminates into that last chapter. I think it's really like we said, it's a manga with very twisted imagery, with some very disturbing actions and events. But at the same time, the way it always puts them, like, how can I say it? The way it always presents them, the fact that we insist so much on the spiral and the effects that it has on the entire village, every life that was once lived by the villagers in that city is essentially destroyed, right? It's done. Everyone perished in the curse of the spiral. But it is only to make up for the next generation. And yeah, that's pretty much what I believe. That the city that we see, that is breathing, that is thinking, that is permeating through every living humans, like Shuichi was saying, that it's invading him not only mentally, but like visually, physically, through every pores of his body and everything. To me, it's a metaphor for some kind of higher power in this world, some kind of higher mechanism, some kind of creature, if you want to say it like that, that governs and that makes sure that everything abides by its rules. It's a reminder every couple of cycles, right? It happens every time. And then people live their lives like they understand life to be, only to get reminded that this is actually what life is about. And
Well, I don't think that's what you can pull from that story. I mean, it's
that's me, right? So
yeah, but there's no purpose, you know.
there
It's
is.
just
That's
not really.
to me there is. But yeah, maybe some people would be disappointed in all this.
I mean, I just really don't see it. I really don't see it. I feel like it's an ending without, it's not an ending with a bang. It's just I don't really get what's in the middle of the hole, like in the middle of Dragonfly Pond. I don't get what happens to them, but it doesn't feel like a story as a whole. It just feels like the writer was telling us things from each and different chapters, but as he was going towards the end, it doesn't feel like everything culminates towards that ending. It just feels like it's empty as some of the chapters were in terms of what's going on.
That's the thing. When you see it with the ending, there is no chapter that is empty. Every side story that we thought was a side story was actually part of the plan, part of the the purpose of the story, part of the main quest, if we might say so.
How so?
I just explained it to you. It's that entity that is below Dragonfly Pond is there for a reason. It's been there. This is not the first cycle. This is not the last cycle
but
either.
what reason is that? It's you get to make people suffer on the surface and drive them crazy with those spiral shapes and turn them into half humans and people that are dependent on things, and they are in the end the victims of that effect. They don't have the power over, and then just restart again and again.
Yes.
And they forget every time that this is going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I don't see the point. I don't see what's they're trying to tell us.
Well, that's the thing, right? You're like, what's the point of it? Knowing those parameters, right? You're trying to fix something, but there's nothing to be fixed. Like, I don't know how to say it even more clearly, but I think that Junji Ito strongly believes, at least how he depicts it in the manga, that life is a cycle, right? And that it has its happy moments and it has its terrible cataclysmic moments also. And essentially, at a moment's notice, everything can flip on its head and end. And then life will restart. Life will be reborn. Does it tell something that can be fixed by main characters that have quests that can go on and change the world? It just tells you a story about that no matter what you do or decide to do, you're condemned to that fate. And then you can choose how to develop for that present cycle. Because in the end, no matter how many laws you may make, how different your moral codes may be from cycle to cycle, there will be one thing that submits every other things to it, and it is that entity at the center of the Dragonfly Pond.
I honestly think that you're projecting a lot of what you think onto that story.
I'm
because
telling
I don't
you,
think
man.
That's the point. I don't think that's the point.
I'm telling you, man. Reread it.
No, I don't.
Reread it.
No, I don't think that's the point at all. I don't. It's all right if that's what he was going for. That we have no power and we just keep going. I don't know why the need to tell that story. This is not correct. But it's just it's basically shit happens. That's what you're trying to say. That's the story. That's what he's trying to say. Shit happens. You can't do anything about it. It just that's the way it is. And
No, he's like, this is a horror story. This is a horror story, and the horror events needs to be, a little bit crunchy, a little bit. You have to give them some punch. So we go about it in a mystical way, but in the end, we kind of have to explain why this shit happens. And the way that he makes it happen is with a gigantic entity that is extremely powerful and that has this curse that it inflicts on the people of the region, and it operates per cycle and builds itself with it. Because remember, at the end of the day, it's incomplete. and the lives of the people are used, like they become stone, right? They become material for the growing of that entity. So I think that
Afterwards, it restarts. It restarts, and we just do it again. You see, that's the thing that I don't understand. So basically, what you're telling me is that these people in this town, they just go around doing their business every day, and
yeah,
then one
yeah,
day you have this curse coming. They have no choice on what their actions are afterwards because it's just the curse that comes to them,
yeah,
and then they all die or they get transformed. But basically, they all die,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then their
That
souls or whatever are consumed, and they become
exactly,
spirals, and they go back to the spiral entity at the center of the pond, and then
exactly,
it
and
just starts again.
it's used as material or as food, as you might like it more, to construct it, to further the advancement. So that's the point.
Towards what do you mean as food? Like for the entity or
Yeah,
like
for
people
the
using?
entity.
Okay, so he eats them, and then what? The town is goes back into it restarts. New people, new town, same
Exactly.
story, and then again and again.
No, it's not the same story.
Why not?
Individually, it's not. They will decide on how they want to live their lives, how to exert the limited amount of energy and time they have in this world to have happy lives, you know. And when the spiral decides that the cycle has come to an end, all of that will serve its growing, its its construction, if we might say.
What's the purpose? What's the I don't get what's the why restart every time?
Because it needs more.
What do you mean? Oh, so it feeds. Okay, it literally feeds up.
That's
Like
what
it
I'm
needs.
telling you.
It needs
Yes,
that.
yes, yes.
Oh man, I don't know. That's
So you're
all
telling
respect.
me you're projecting or anything? I mean, I'm getting signals from it, right? And I'm interpreting the signals as I may because I am not equipped to actually go into Junji Ito's mind and get the true motivators and reasons of writing that story, what he wanted to express through it. But I believe that it makes up for a horrific context to make such a story happen. And it's thought provoking about many things in life, about our relationships between people. And I believe it's a beautiful manga. It's very how can I say? It's one of the most subtle works I've seen come out of Japan.
Look. The problem here is that, of course, you can make up this interpretation and say that this is what I get from the manga. And let's say, for like the sake of argument, this is what he was going for, the writer. Let's say that's like what he is actually thinking when writing this. You can have big philosophical um, thoughts and ideas in your work, but it doesn't make like the story good, or it doesn't make it important if it doesn't show in the action and in the story itself. These big philosophical questions have to be transmitted through the characters and through the stories and through the decisions that they're making inside of that story and for the plot. Everything has to serve the plot. It's not just putting
Yeah,
a
yeah. It's
back
not making a
philosophical
soup,
meaning.
right? Yeah, you put it in a big, how do you say, uh, a cooking pot, right? You throw many ingredients in there, and then you wish that it works. That's not what he did to me, right? To me, what happens when you say throughout the manga we have to see the themes and actions that transpire vehicle something, tell something to everybody. To me, what he does, right, is that he puts them through this unlikely context, through a series of trials and tribulations, and we see how they react, how that society reacts. Some people, as I said, how I feel about it is that they are consumed by their desires, and instead of becoming like Kyrie, right, or Shuichi, that reach the center of the labyrinth, is essentially in one piece and with about normal mental state, they completely go off track, and they either die or kill a lot of people, and then in the end, right, with the principle of cycles, they are destined to return to the source. So what's interesting is that they do not know this information, and they chose to act the way they acted. And it's funny to me because Kyrie was in the same predicament as most people in the village, but the way she treated others and everything was very different. And she wasn't the only person that acted like this. And the same thing for her dad. The way that the spiral took him and the way he came out of it, like for a good portion of the story, he was not the man he was with the kiln. So, to me, yeah, man, I don't know. I can only see a couple of characters that we follow religiously for 19 chapters go through trials and tribulations, and their personality shows, and their morals shows, and their actions shows. That's who they are, right? And then we come up to these different characters that in most chapters die. Like I'm thinking about the Medusa chapter. That girl died, but in the end, she craved attention. The spiral gave her, and she wanted to feed more off of it. So she did. And I think Junji Ito's work is that. It's just creating that environment where you can let these things happen and transpire. And I think it's beautiful.
All right, I
Yeah,
guess, yeah. All right. I think,
I
I
think
think
we should just chalk it up to every story gets read and interpreted different ways, and I think you're able to just spot those things, and you gave meaning to them. It doesn't even matter if it's the author's what he wanted to do or not. That's the meaning you got out of it. That's nice, right? I just think when I read it, it was like I enjoyed it. I found it creative. I found it exciting sometimes, scary. I mean, a lot of emotions with me, and it was a good time, But for me, I think that ending is just. I felt they hyped the spiral thing for so long that when I got there, I was just okay, like I'm repeating myself, or I'm like, yeah, okay, it was very good, but it wasn't satisfying, and I think that's what's missing of it for me. It's that I wasn't satisfied. Like my first reaction was satisfaction, and even when you've been telling me what your interpretation is, I can't seem to completely see it, so it's hard to get behind it and change that first opinion that I
No,
have.
it's fine. It's completely fine. To be honest,
But
I was not
I enjoyed it.
expecting you guys to have understood the same thing, but I was expecting you guys to take something out of it. So that's why I was maybe unjustly surprised, because it took me a second reading to put into better words the feelings that it made me feel, right?
Maybe that's what it would need, a second read, because the first one for me, it was really my, like when I think about it, when just before we got into the podcast, I tried to like refresh some things, and the feelings that I had with it were I liked it, I enjoyed it, beautiful, like I said, creative and everything. It was just, but for me, it's like a if I had to rank it in like manga, I think it'd be like B. It's a like good story. I could
Yeah.
even some parts, some little like couple pages for me are even A tier. They were excellent. So
And
that's my
since it's not a 1,000 chapter manga, I think it's pretty safe to say that you didn't regret putting the time you did for that story, right?
yeah, no, absolutely. I think for me it's uh I didn't regret my time. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that you did because it's not something that I usually go and read, and it it shows me that there's different kind of manga styles, right? It's not just Naruto or Dragon Ball, like shonen. There's much more complexity to it, and it's a valid art form that could sh- it it does something completely different. So that's cool of it.
Well, I'm glad that I got you to experiment Berserk and now Uzumaki. I know that I've been the only guy that gives mangas to read, but I think it's for a reason, right? I want you to be exposed to um, those authors, that way of life, that way of thought, that expression. It's very different. We don't have much of that in here in the West. Even though globalization made it easier to access, there is so much that we kind of get lost. So I'm glad that you took upon yourselves to honor the homework and go through it. Is Jackie there?
Yeah, I'm there, of course. Yeah. Well, um, ah, there's a lot of things to say about this manga. Of course, we don't have don't have an infinite amount of time, so I think it's better we stop at one point. But yeah, it's always interesting to read new things and to be taken out of our comfort zone and read those kinds of things because we're used to movies like you said and stories made out in the West, but when we're faced with those kind of stories we get to discover new things that I can guarantee you we would never see in this side of the Pacific Ocean.
1000%. Well, you know, we can't end the podcast without giving the next homework. That's a rule that we have. So today, this week, is your turn, Kyle.
Yeah, it is. It's been a while. It's actually one of the first suggestions that I wanted to give when we started this, but
Hmm.
there was like everything I was like there was something that I just like I really knew that you guys were gonna like. I prioritized that. But now my suggestion is gonna be a movie, and I don't know. I know that Jackie has seen it, and he um has a lot of maybe some problems with it, and it doesn't enjoy it as much as I do. For me, it's one of my top five movies, easy. Even I, I don't know, top 10 for sure. Top five, getting very close to it. And so the movie is called Mommy, or how you pronounce it in French, Mamie. And
Mommy.
yeah, and it's a French Canadian, or as you can say, Quebecois movie. And yeah, I'm excited to what especially you what you think about it there. I know what Jackie thinks about it, or he's gonna rewatch it, so maybe he'll have different opinions. But I'm really excited to see how you fare in this movie.
I'm interested, that's for sure. And with such a meme-worthy title as Mommy, I hope that it's gonna give us either good laughs or good reflections or something. But if it comes from you, I am guaranteed that it will give me something worth it. So I'm glad to have spent these 2 hours and 45 minutes now with you guys. There is a reason why we took a hiatus, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Of
it can
course.
it is time consuming, but it's always fun.
Jackie, any last comments?
I'm I'm excited to do this week's homework. I hope that well, I don't hope. I'll see if I change my mind about this movie, but I'm pretty sure that you guys listening will want to be there for next week because it's gonna be a good talk.
Wow. Well, stay tuned, everybody. It seems like it's gonna be a fire episode. When my buddy is talking this way about something, just know it's gonna be spicy.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Till next time, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.